want their lives to count for something, to leave their mark when life is through. But vain pursuits will count for nothing. Time will erase whate'er we do. I want my life to count for Jesus, for earthly things will quickly fade. No need to add to worldly riches. I only seek eternal gain. Inside my heart there burns the question, what was I placed on earth here for? It truly was to build a kingdom, not of my own, but of the Lord's. I want my life to count for Jesus, for earthly things will quickly fade. No need to add to worldly riches. I only seek eternal gain. No need to add to worldly riches. I only seek eternal gain.
This for the cause of Christ. What better of a blessing would it be to leave a legacy for having a Christian heritage to leave to you people? What a blessing that would be. All right, if you have your Bibles, look in the book of Micah, chapter number 4. Going to get into this prophecy a little more in depth as he's looking at these different things that are coming. I've titled this three time periods on the way. We've seen in chapter 3 the destruction of Jerusalem and the things that happened there. And in chapter number 4, there's 13 verses. We'll try to cover the whole chapter. But here's the things we want to look for. The millennial kingdom. We'll get to that, the first part of it. And then the near future. And then the last war. Does anybody know what the last war is called that'll be on the planet, or the last war, the title of it? Anybody know? Armageddon. So it's unique how Micah goes about describing all this, but I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, and I want to be kind of short tonight. A lot of things, well, we had play practice earlier, and we've been on the road. Hopefully we'll get out of here quickly, but I don't want to skip over the fact. Now, I'm going to be very transparent, I guess is the word everybody uses. I am not a prophecy guy. And here's the main reason, because I don't know that any of the prophecy guys have it figured out either. Now, there's all kinds of viewpoints, all kinds of teaching. And if you look around long enough, you'll find one you like. But are they all 100% correct? I don't think so. Are some of them? I believe that these parts of all of us get stuff right occasionally. But if it is, it's because the Lord allowed it. But in Micah chapter number 4, we'll begin reading in verse number 1. But in the last days it shall come to pass that the mountain of the house of the Lord shall be established in the top of the mountain, and it shall be exalted above the hills, and people shall flow unto it. Now, let me just ask a simple question with this first verse. Do you think that's happened in the past? That everybody just wants to go to church. That everybody's running to God to see what He wants. That everybody is ready to get in line with the Lord. Have you seen that anywhere in the past? Is it currently happening now? So we can see that this first verse is something that's not happened yet, that's going to be happening. And I just want you to look at that, because it says that people shall flow unto it. In other words, something's changed and they're coming to God. Willingly, wantingly, and there's a peace about that there's not been yet. So verse number 2. And many nations shall come and say, Come, let us go up to the mountain of the Lord and to the house of God, of the God of Jacob, and He will teach us His ways, and we will walk in His paths. For the law shall go forth of Zion, and the word of the Lord from Jerusalem. Now, again, think of it. Has there ever been a time on the planet where everybody is running to get wisdom and direction from God? I mean, has all the nations ever agreed that God is God and we'll go get what we need and want from Him? So we see again, this is all future. Verse number 3. And He shall judge among many people and rebuke strong nations afar off, and they shall beat their swords into plowshares and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation shall not lift up a sword against nation, neither shall they learn war anymore. But they shall sit every man under his vine and under his fig tree, and none shall make them afraid, for the mouth of the Lord of hosts has spoken it. For all the people will walk every one in the name of his God. But look at the comma, and you know that's a pause. And we will walk in the name of the Lord our God forever and ever. In that day, saith the Lord, I will assemble her that halteth, and I will gather her that is driven out, and her that I have afflicted. And I will make her that halteth a remnant, and her that was cast far off a strong nation. And the Lord shall reign over them in Mount Zion from henceforth even forever. And thou, O tower of the flock, the stronghold of the daughter of Zion, unto thee shall it come, even the first dominion. The kingdom shall come to the daughter of Jerusalem. And I'm going to stop there. It's a good place to take a break in them first 8 verses, and let's just discuss it and talk about it a little bit. So what is this a picture of, or what do you think this is representing? We've all kind of agreed already, this has not ever taken place. It's not happened yet. So Micah, in his prophecy, in his vision, he's looking way on down the road. Now remember, he's already said that there's destruction coming, there's punishment coming, because we've rejected God, we don't want God. So we know that it's not happened yet, especially to the point to where all the nations have gathered together and accepted God as God. That nowhere on earth have we seen the peace where nations are not looking out for their own interest. To this very day, that's going on. I mean, do you think America wants to promote another country above them or another nation? I mean, that would be silly. So this has not happened yet. The time period has not came upon us yet. So now let's figure out, when is he talking about? How can we decipher where we're at in this? So in verse number 1, we see, in the last days it shall come to pass that the mountain of the house of the Lord shall be established on the top of the mountains. So what this is a picture of the millennial kingdom coming down. So what is before the millennial kingdom? What has to happen before the millennial kingdom comes into play? Anybody know? Anybody got clues? A few things. Give me some of them. The rapture. So what happens during the rapture? What do we believe as a Baptist church? What do we think? Are we going to go through part of the are we going to be left behind? Okay, nobody's going to be left behind. So what are we being raptured from? What happens after the rapture takes place? Anybody? It lasts for 7 years. The Great Tribulation. I think you find that over, and I didn't write the reference down. Yes, I did. Let's look in Matthew chapter 24, verses 21 and 22. That's what I was looking for earlier, and I didn't even realize I had wrote it down. Matthew chapter 24, verses 21 and 22. Matthew 24, come on, fingers work. 21 and 22. Now, this is a time period that is shortened, because if it wasn't shortened, man wouldn't have survived it. Remember, this is where God is pouring out judgment. In Matthew 24, chapter 24, verse number 21. Then shall be great tribulation, such as was not since the beginning of the world to this time, nor ever shall be. Except those days be shortened, there should no flesh be saved. But for the elect's sake, those days shall be shortened. So that's what ushers in this time period that Micah is talking about, where God comes back and the millennial kingdom is being set up. It also signifies what? That the tribulation period has come to an end. So think about the book of Revelation, where all those vials are being poured out. We know the church is not there. The church has been what? Raptured out. The church does not go through it. There's some people hold different viewpoints on that. This is the viewpoint of the Baptist church that we're a part of, and that we believe that the Bible teaches, is that the church, before the 7-year period, which is called the Great Tribulation period, before that starts, boom, the church is gone. And as I put it very boldly, once the presence, what is the church on earth? The presence of God. It's God that works through His church that has the peace that we have now. And you can see in our day and hour how that peace is getting so finite and so minute that there's very little peace in this world. And it's going to get worse. It's not going to get better. So the rapture happens and the church goes away. And then the Great Tribulation period starts. It lasts for a period of 7 years. And then God comes back and sets up the millennial kingdom. And that's where we're at in verse number 1. And what happens during this millennial kingdom? There is peace for how long? Don't answer. Give somebody else an opportunity. How long is the millennial kingdom? Millennial kingdom. What? 100 years is not right. 1,000 years. Millennial, that is the Greek designation for 1,000 years. So 1,000 years, God's government is running. Do you think God's government is going to be perfect? Is God's government going to be perfect? Because He is a perfect God. And if He's perfect, then His government's perfect, and His trains all run on time. We already know that. But we see that this is the end of the Great Tribulation period that only lasted for how long? 7 years. And it's shortened. Why did it have to be shortened? Because the earth couldn't have took it and humankind couldn't have took it anymore. God shortened the period. He's pouring out His judgment. And when He pours out His judgment, there ain't much surviving it. So for that shortened period of time, then here comes verse number 1, and the prophet Micah is talking about that. He said, look, it's come down, it's touching, and it's the mountain of God. And they say, let all the nations, they want to run to God and get direction, and He's running the government the way it should be run. Now, here's the thing for it. It says He's going to rebuke the nations afar off, and they're going to beat their swords into plowshare. We know that's not happened now because there's wars all around. Rumors of wars. There's no peace. They're going to be looking out for one another. Hey, the Russian's going to say to the American, let's go to God and get direction. Let's go and learn what we should do and how we should do, and let's go do that. Did you have your hand up, Miss Dan? Tribulation period.
Are people going to have an opportunity to get saved?
Yes, there will be a handful of people saved during that. And that's going to come out as we go a little further into some of Micah's visions. But it's a very few elect people. And there's 144 people. Well, I don't want to get into all that, but it gets very specific. And that's a question a lot of people want to know. Will they be people saved? How are they going to get saved? Who are they going to be saved? And it'll all be the Jewish people. And it kind of comes in at the end of the chapter. We'll see God has a remnant. God will always keep a remnant. And God will have a remnant at the end. Because everybody thinks of God as just a God of wrath. People, the whole Christian life is a balance. So some people say God's sitting up there and I can't be a Christian because I never can live it because God would be beating on me all the time. But God is always a God of justice, but He's also a God of mercy. And this is, when you're raising your children, Kat, when you're raising your two kids back there, you correct them for what? For their own good. You correct them to keep them safe in the world. You correct them because you love them. And by them being obedient and learning that correction, it brings joy to them. And that's all. God is just the ultimate parent. He don't bring punishment or judgment unless in the end it will bring joy. But how many of you ever, when you got spanked, when your mama or your daddy spanked you, how many of you ever turned around and said, I'm so glad you did that. Let's do it again. The next time you need to release some pent-up energy, come and find me. I'm your person. You see, that it's never like that. And with the Jewish people, God chose them. And they're like the mules of the earth, the donkeys of the earth. They are so stubborn. They're like no, I didn't say that. They're just humans, I guess. But they're stubborn and they don't want to learn and they don't want to continue on. So we see the end of the Great Tribulation period, this shortened time, and we saw that in Matthew 24. Now look at the government of God. It's about peace and a willingness for God's way. Right now, nobody wants to do it God's way. Do we need to go into detail about that? Right now in our country, we don't even know what bathroom to go in. Did God form man out of the dust of the ground? Did He do that? Yes. Did He create a female for Adam? And did He create them different? Then why on God's green earth can we not figure that out and just abide by that? No, what are we doing today? Our society's trying to say there is no differences. Women are not made smaller. They're not made weaker. They're not made for a certain task that the divine Creator gave to them. That is no less important than the task that He gave to the bigger, stronger, muscular man so he could take care of her and provide for the family. No, God don't know what He's doing. So there is no difference between the sexes. We're all just a conglomerate of each other. And that's why we don't know what bathroom to go to anymore. Because the nations in these verses we've read, these nations were flocking to the house of God. They wanted to know what God wanted. They wanted to know how to carry it out. But in these verses, that's what's happening. And we know that's not happened yet. So this is future things that are coming. We know that nations are not getting rid of their nuclear warheads and buying Christmas gifts. We know nations are not just giving all their wealth to one big pot and we're all sharing it. The nations are all looking out for each nation. And that's just the way it is. So during this time frame, all of that has changed. For all people will walk every one in the name of his God. That's where we're at now. But if you see the comment, then it says, and we will walk in the name of the Lord our God forever and ever. In that day, saith the Lord, will I assemble her that halteth, and I will gather her that is driven out, and her that I have afflicted. Here's the mercy of God being shown again. And I will make her a halted and a remnant, and her that was cast afar off, a strong nation, and the Lord God shall reign over them in Mount Zion from henceforth, even forever. And thou, O tower of the flock, the stronghold of the daughter of Zion, unto thee shall it come, even the first dominion, the kingdom, shall come to the daughter of Jerusalem. Now, there's a lot happens right there. That's the millennial kingdom and God's government and running. And we see the peace that it's brought. How that people are really truly concerned about one another. So let's look in verse 9 and 10. We'll stop after those two verses. So this is a different thing that Micah sees and that he's prophesying. In verse number 6 he says, in that day, saith the Lord, will I assemble her that halteth, and I will get... I'm in verse number 6. Verse number 9. I was thinking, that sounds very familiar. Verse number 9. Now why doest thou cry out aloud? Is there no king in thee? Is thy counselor perished? For pangs have taken thee as a woman in travail. Be in pain and labor to bring forth, O daughter of Zion, like a woman in travail. For now shalt thou go forth out of the city, and thou shalt dwell in the field, and thou shalt go even to Babylon. There shalt thou be delivered. There the Lord shall redeem thee from the hand of thine enemies. Now this is a whole different time period. Instead of him looking way past what everybody even had a clue of, now he's looking to what God said was going to come to them for rejecting him and rejecting his prophets and the messages and the mercy he had given them. Remember, he said Jerusalem would be taken in a siege. That's what this is about. So now instead of him viewing way out into the future, he's viewing to what's coming to them before long. It's a short vision. It's like the clouds and the sun. The cloud comes by and he can't see very far. And now he's seeing what is coming to them. And we know this as the punishment that he had told them that was coming. He's warning them. He says, look, it's going to be like a woman giving birth to a child. Now, I can't speak to that. I can tell you what I've saw of it, and I'm glad that y'all deal with that, the lady folk, because if man dealt with that, this would be a very unpopulated place, I can promise you. My wife, she's learned better now as after 5 children, but with our first child, she was kind of that, all natural. I don't want nothing. I don't like needles. I don't want none of that mess. And after 24 hours of labor, she decided she wasn't as tough as maybe she thought she was. And she said, do you have something? Because and I was there and witnessed the whole thing. Man was not meant to be a part of that. I promise you. I speak for every man on the planet. It's not fun to watch all that. Not at all. But after 24 hours, they come in there and said, you're not really progressing like we would like to see, so we're going to give you something to make this happen. And by that point, she had come to her senses. God gave medicine for a good reason. This seems like a good place to apply it. So, you ladies that have been through childbirth, you know all about the pangs of delivery. It's painful. It's not pleasant. It's just like when God takes you to the woodshed. It's not pleasant. When Mama and Daddy says, I'm not telling you no more. Your mercy's over, and here comes the judgment. So Jerusalem's going to fall. Babylon's going to take them over. And we see that that's what happens in these two verses. Punishment's coming. Pain is on the way. But look how he finishes it off in verse number 10. In verse number 10, he says, There shalt thou be delivered. There the Lord shall redeem thee from the hand of thine enemies. So even though they're going to be taken out and put in slavery and captive, and the city's going to be destroyed, and everything's going to be tore up, and all the blessings are going to be wiped away, but in the end, God is going to be there for them. Just like when you take care of a child, or whenever you have to discipline your children, you should always let them know, I did this, son, because I love you. I did this. This hurts me more than it hurts you. Everybody's heard that, right? Where does that come from? God Himself. When you're laying flat on your back because you was hard-headed and stubborn and you didn't listen to what God was trying to tell you, and God sends a little bit of a funny thing that goes through your system, and your heart maybe flutters or flops, and you end up on your back in the hospital, where all you can do is look up and say, wow, God, what happened? And you know God was trying to tell you, but you wouldn't listen. So now you're there, and you got all the time to talk to God and find the joy in the fact that He's going to let you stay around, because He's still got work for you to do. There's things He wants from you, and you get to serve. And when you get on your feet, you should have a little spring in your step and say, yes, Lord, you don't have to do that again. I know exactly what I'm going to do. People say God's not like that. God is like that. God wants us to serve Him. God could force and make, but He wants you to do it from a joy in your heart. He promises joy in the end. And His ways always bring joy in the end. Maybe not understanding to us, but it'll bring joy. I mean, do you think it's good if you follow His laws and try to follow His guide? I mean, is it good for your health? If you take the Old Testament dietary law system, is it going to make you stronger, or is it going to make you weaker? It's going to make you stronger. And I think it was Dalen or Jared one in Sunday school talked about how that God had blessed the human race through the dietary system and the laws that the Jews had, and how that modern medicine has stepped forward in all of its progress because of those certain rules that He made. God's not in this to hurt us. He's in this to help us and protect us. And in the end, He wants us to look at Him and say, I love you. Thank you. I've not seen this a lot, but I have seen children. You know, right now is a good time for Jared and Kat and the age of their children. Because right now they're small, and Kat can jerk them up if she needs to, and Jared can jerk them up. But as they get older, that's not going to be the case. It's not going to be fun to have to discipline. But the whole point of it is not to just let them run wild, but to give them guidelines. And what would be a blessing for Kat one day is if little Cassidy come back home and said, Mama, I'm so glad that you didn't let me do some of the stuff everybody else did. Mama, I'm glad that you taught me to brush my teeth. Now, please help me teach your grandkids. But God is the same way. He wants us to have joy. And He'll give it to us if we'll let Him. Let's look in verse number 11. We'll pick back up there. Now this is a whole nother time frame. Now also many nations are gathered against thee, that say, let her be defiled, and let our eye look upon Zion. But they know not the thoughts of the Lord, neither understand they His counsel. For they shall gather them as sheaves into the floor, arise and thresh. Now look at this contrast here. So these nations are all gathered around, and they're going to destroy Jerusalem. They're going to destroy God's people. They're going to fight against God. And we know that the previous two verses, God sent judgment, and He used heathen nations to do it. And God can use whatever. And God will allow His enemies, the ones that He's not for, they hate His people. He will let them come in, and we've seen it all through the Old Testament. How many times did God let one of them Sites or them Havites or some of them Jebusites and all them bites and mites and ites, He would let them come in there and get His people. For what purpose? To discipline them, to teach them, to acknowledge the fact that what His prophet had told them was going to happen would come to pass. Remember, the judges, they would come up and the people would moan and groan, and God would hear their cry, and God would send them a prophet, and God would say, walk in my ways, follow after me. And they would do it for a little while, and then they go right back in to their sin. And then God would use one of them Zites, one of them mites, one of them ites, one of the enemies. God would open it up and let them come in. And that's what's happening in verses 11 and 12. Now also all these nations are gathered together against thee, that say, let her be defiled. Let our eye look upon Zion. In other words, let's kill out all these people of God. This all ties into present day time. Do you think that there's a move in our country, in our very country, that was founded upon the principles of God? Do you think that there is a move right now to destroy the church? Does this apply to us? It does. This battle is going on currently all over the world. They say, we don't want her. We don't want that church. We don't want that gospel. We don't want God. And we don't want nothing to do with it. Get it all away from us. Let's stomp it into the ground and forget about them. Let's destroy it. And in the past, God has allowed that group in and let him take care of His people to delve out the punishment that's coming. But they know not, look at verse 12, but they know not the thoughts of the Lord, neither understand they His counsel. For He shall gather them as sheaves into the floor. Now what this is saying is all the enemies that are against God, they're all coming together. And they're all thinking, we're going to finally put an end to God. We're going to finally put an end to His people. We're going to finally put an end to the church. And we'll never have to hear what we've done wrong. We'll never have to worry about what we've done that we shouldn't have done. Our consciences are going to be clear finally, because there'll be no moral high list. There'll be no set of rules that we should abide by. And they're excited. God, they're ready to take care of business. But what's getting ready to take place is this. Those that have punished are fixing to get punished. In other words, remember what's this called? What is the last war on planet Earth? What is this called? And this is the final battle that's getting ready to happen. You think about the little country of Israel, how the world around it hates it. It's a little bitty spot, man. Ain't very big. And everybody surrounding it hates it. And they want to destroy it. They want to make it to where it don't exist. But as they all gather, look at the bigger plan. If God is going to annihilate the enemy, what better of a time to do it than when they're all gathered around together? And this will be the final battle. In verse 13 it said, "Arise and thresh, O daughter of Zion." That's His church. That's His people. "For I will make thine horn iron, and I will make thy hoofs brass. And thou shalt beat in pieces many people, and I will consecrate their grain unto the Lord, for their substance unto the Lord of the whole earth." In other words, He's going to let His people stand up and take care of the enemy once and for all. He's going to, and once that's done, once that war is over, then the people will bring all that to God and say, "Thank you, because the war's over now. There is no enemy to God, and the punishers have been punished." God delivers His people again, and there's joy. There's joy in the whole earth because God has took care of the enemy. Who did it? Did the people do it? Did God's people do it in their own power, in their own might? No. He strengthened them so they could do it. And by that final token, they're going to say, He really does love us. He really does. He really is our God. He is really for us. We were encompassed about by such an enemy. There would have been no way we would have survived. But He gave them the strength to overcome it. Now, we talked a little bit about where we are right now, presently in our day and hour, where ungodliness is elevated and lifted, where things that God burned cities to the ground over are praised and magnified. And now we see during this time, the enemy thought it was over and they had won the battle. They thought all we got to do is move together now. Is that not what they think about the church right now currently? She's weak. Look, she's anemic. Look, there's services, there's nobody at them. Look, there's no revival fire in them. Look, the people of God are weak. Let's attack, let's attack. But what does the Bible say about the church? What does the Bible have to say about whether the church is going to be destroyed or not? Dalen, got any idea? It'll last forever, but in the Bible, where in the New Testament does it say something about, "And the gates of hell shall not prevail"? It's not ever going to happen. That's why on a Wednesday night we can come to church, because we know we're on the winning side. We know the battle is over. We know that when we leave here, we have a home to go to. What a blessing that is. What a blessing that is. And you know, if I have to stand alone, let's stand alone. Because His presence is all we need. His power is the only power there is.